I've been working diligently at Carson Manufacturing for 20 years, and then, out of the blue, I received a notice of termination. Despite my dedication to the company, my manager Avon delivered the news with a smug grin. "Congratulations, Mark," he said with a mocking tone. "You've been selected for workforce reduction. We've hired a top-notch new recruit, so you're being let go. Thanks for your hard work." I stood there speechless, struggling to process the sudden betrayal. "It's unfortunate, but that's reality," Avon added, smirking. "You should regret your foolishness for opposing me." I responded calmly, my words carrying a weight that took him aback. He stopped speaking for a moment, but soon regained his composure, flashing that same nasty grin. "No matter how tough you talk, you're still fired. Pack your things and leave," he said before walking away, laughing loudly. But deep down, I knew he understood the meaning of my words. The next day, as I packed my belongings, I reflected on the years I'd spent at Carson Manufacturing. My name is Mark Davis, and for 20 years, I dedicated myself to this company, working tirelessly on the production floor. I'm 43 now, and despite my long tenure, I remained a regular employee without any promotions. I loved tinkering with machines more than anything and wanted to stay on the floor, even though I had several opportunities for promotion. To me, having the freedom to create machines was more important than a bigger salary or a higher title. But those happy days came to an abrupt end. The downfall began when Evan became my supervisor. Before him, my supervisors were hardworking and respectable mentors. They covered for my mistakes, collaborated with other departments to solve problems, and fostered a culture of trust and collaboration. But all of that changed when the CEO was replaced and his nephew, Evan, was transferred here. "I won't tolerate the lax atmosphere of this workplace anymore," Evan declared during his first address. "From now on, every employee must give their all to achieve results." We were confused but tried to accept his demands. We were already passionate about our work, doing our best without being told. But Evan, without understanding the situation on the ground, kept demanding higher sales without offering any concrete instructions. Eventually, I decided to confront him. "Evan, everyone here is doing their best every day. But if you ask us to improve our performance without specific directions, we don't know how," I said. "If you guys working on the ground don't know how, then how should I?" Evan retorted arrogantly. "Mr. Carson boasted that you are excellent employees. If you're so talented, you should be able to figure it out without my instructions." No matter how hard I tried to communicate, he remained dismissive. Through persistent discussions, I realized he was completely inexperienced. Mr. Carson had called his nephew, who had been drifting from job to job in various industries, to give him a position out of pity. I gave up on expecting any meaningful guidance from Evan. But he held a grudge against me for embarrassing him and continued to resent me. Whenever we crossed paths, he would make snide remarks, questioning why I was still a regular employee in my 40s. "I enjoy working on the production floor and wish to continue here," I'd reply, but he would dismiss it as an excuse, calling me incompetent. His sarcasm wasn't just directed at me. He also targeted Emily, my right-hand woman. Emily is a skilled worker in her 30s with exceptional talent, which is why I always included her in my projects. But even mocked her involvement, comparing it to a babysitting job. "Mark even has a babysitter assigned to him," he would say, laughing. I could ignore the insults directed at me, but involving other employees was different. However, Emily herself would hold me back. "I know how capable you are. No matter what anyone says, we just need to prove ourselves through our work," she'd say, her smile always easing the tension. Despite Evan's troublesome presence, we managed to continue our work. But over time, his behavior became unbearable. He would leave work on time, pushing his tasks onto his subordinates, never showing any gratitude. He even started rejecting employee requests for paid leave with unreasonable excuses. Realizing that this couldn't continue, we decided to complain directly to Mr. Carson, hoping he would change Evan's attitude. But instead of reprimanding Evan, I was the one scolded. "You've been with this company for 20 years, haven't you? It's your role to support Evan, yet you complain without making any effort. From now on, devote yourself more to assisting him," Mr. Carson said, leaving me utterly disillusioned with the company. Since then, Evan has subjected me to various petty harassments. I had been working on developing a machine that assembles parts for about 5 years. I named it Fabs, combining fabrication and fabulous to represent the joy of creation. Fabs was designed to handle large and heavy parts, automating a wide range of assembly tasks. Once completed, it would replace manual insertion processes, significantly reducing work time and stabilizing quality. For the past year, we focused on finalizing the product based on the prototype. But one day, the prototype was found destroyed. When I arrived at work that day, I was shocked to see the prototype forcibly toppled and in pieces. It was large and securely fixed, so it couldn't have been easily knocked over. As I stood there in shock, staring at the dented and damaged prototype, Evan approached, pretending to be just passing by. With a sneer, he said, "Oh, is that the toy you were making, Mark? Sorry, I bumped into it and it fell over. But isn't it good that we found out its weakness before it was commercialized? You should be thanking me." He laughed loudly, lying through his teeth, and walked away as if nothing had happened. I knew there was no way the prototype could have fallen from a mere bump. It was designed to withstand significant shaking. Even though I was certain Evan had done it deliberately, I had no proof, so I couldn't report it. Swallowing my frustration, I began repairing the prototype. Fortunately, most of the internal circuitry was intact, and within a few days, I had restored the machine. After that, I made sure to lock the room where the prototype was kept whenever I left. Previously, the development room had always been open so that anyone in the company could freely observe our work. The low barriers for exchanging ideas across positions and departments were one of the company's strengths. But from that day, the enjoyment of this open environment became a thing of the past. Evan's harassment didn't stop there. He shredded documents I created, piled an excessive amount of paperwork solely on me, and even answered calls intended for me, deleting data I was responsible for without permission. His harassment reached new levels, but I stayed at the company. I was determined not to leave until Fabs, the machine I had worked on for 5 years, was officially launched. I believed that once Fabs was released, it could bring about a small revolution in the manufacturing industry, which was suffering from a labor shortage. Holding on to this belief, I endured Evan's daily provocations and immersed myself in product development. In the midst of these trying days, a turning point finally arrived. One day, an envelope was delivered to my desk. It was an invitation to the world's largest technology and manufacturing exhibition. This event was a prestigious platform for showcasing the latest advancements in manufacturing and implementation technologies, attracting companies from various industries, including electronics, semiconductors, and automotive parts. I had applied to present Fabs at this event, the culmination of my 5 years of hard work. I prepared day and night for the exhibition, fine-tuning Fabs and getting ready for the presentation. On the day of the event, the venue was packed with industry experts and media representatives. As the presentation time approached, I felt a thrilling excitement like never before. But just 5 minutes before I was supposed to go on stage, I was suddenly called aside by the event organizers. "Mark, we're sorry, but Egan will be presenting instead of you," they informed me. "What? Evan?" I was stunned. As I tried to process what was happening, Evan walked past me, holding my presentation materials, and took the stage. He began presenting the content I had prepared, with a self-satisfied look on his face. "What is going on?" I muttered in disbelief. I had created everything, the demo files for Fabs, the promotional videos, everything. Emily, who was standing beside me, was also trembling with anger. "This is terrible, Mark. He's stolen all of your work," she said, her voice filled with frustration. After the presentation, Evan approached us, completely satisfied with himself. "Evan, what is the meaning of this?" I demanded, barely able to contain my anger. "What's the problem? It's obvious that it's better for a department head like me to present than a regular employee like you," he retorted without a hint of remorse. "Don't you understand that it increases the chances of successful deals? But Fabs is my invention. You don't even understand the content of the materials you just read, do you?" "The person who understands the product should be the one presenting," I protested. "You just don't get it, do you? Besides, I got permission from Mr. Carson to present this machine. Are you going to go against his decision?" he said, a smug grin spreading across his face. I realized then that arguing was pointless. Evan had been waiting for this opportunity to embarrass me. He must have figured out that Fabs was the most important thing to me after I reacted to him destroying the prototype. He had undoubtedly arranged everything in advance with Mr. Carson to take Fabs away from me. But being told it was the CEO's decision, there was nothing more a regular employee like me could do. As I stood there, swallowing my frustration, Evan patted me on the shoulder and walked away with a gleeful look. Well, since there's nothing more to discuss, I'll take my leave. I have to handle the inquiries and orders for that machine. As expected, Fabs was welcomed with open arms by the industry. Evan had stolen my product and gained significant recognition and fame as a result. Seeing Evan and Mr. Carson reveling in their success, I finally made up my mind. The most shocking news came the day after the exhibition. As I went to work, remembering the humiliating events of the previous day, I arrived at my desk to find it completely empty. All the research I had accumulated over the years and the meticulously gathered documents were gone. What is going on here? I asked, looking around in disbelief. I don't know. I have no idea. When I came in this morning, it was already like this, Emily replied, her voice full of concern. My other colleagues were equally clueless. After searching the department, we found everything from my desk stuffed into garbage bags and left in a storage room. Who would do something like this? Emily muttered, shock evident in her voice. Everyone thought of the same person at that moment. Mark, what are you doing over there? Evan's voice called out, his smug grin more pronounced than ever. He appeared in high spirits, glancing at me holding the garbage bags, and snorted derisively. Rummaging through trash early in the morning? You've really hit rock bottom, haven't you? My belongings were thrown away. Do you know anything about it, Evan? I asked, struggling to keep my composure. Of that, it was all unnecessary, so I took care of it last night. You should be thanking me, he said casually, leaving me speechless. As I struggled to find a response, he smiled and dropped a bombshell. Congratulations, Mark. You've been selected for workforce reduction. We're hiring a top-tier new graduate starting tomorrow. So you're fired. I was stunned by the sudden announcement, and Evan seemed to enjoy himself even more as he continued. The new hire is Mr. Carson's son, a young, college-educated employee, totally different from a regular, eternal employee like you. The machine you made, Fabs or whatever, is finished, right? That means you're no longer needed by the company. The new hire will use your desk starting tomorrow. So clear it out and leave today. In other words, you're fired. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. I've worked diligently for 20 years, and now you're telling me to leave by the end of today. I asked, my voice barely holding steady. Evan's grin widened even more. That's what I've been saying. A regular employee can't even understand when they're being fired. Listen, Mark, you're fired. It's unfortunate, but that's reality. You should regret the foolishness of opposing me. That's good, I said, surprising even myself with the calmness in my voice. Evan was taken aback and stopped talking. What did you just say? I said that's good, Evan. Can't you understand my response? This company may be what it is now, but I've been here for 20 years. I was hesitant to submit my resignation. But since you fired me for the company's convenience, it's a different story now. I can leave this company proudly. Hearing my words, Evan stood there dumbfounded for a moment, but soon he shook his head, regaining his composure, and that nasty smug grin returned to his face. Is this the howl of a loser? No matter how much you pretend to be tough, you're still fired. Pack your things and leave. I will. And by the way, I'll be taking all the unpaid vacation days I've accrued. For a lowly employee, you sure know how to use your head. Take as many days off as you want, he scoffed, laughing loudly as he walked away. I gathered my necessary belongings and left the company. After 20 years of commuting every day, rain or shine, it ended rather abruptly. Thinking about this, I slept in late the next day, forgetting all my past fatigue. But when I woke up and saw my phone screen by my pillow, I blinked in surprise. What is with all these missed calls? There were dozens of missed calls from the workplace I had just left. They must have been calling nonstop since the start of the workday. As I sighed at the long list of missed calls, another call came in. I was tempted to ignore it, but the constant ringing was draining the battery, and it was annoying. I realized that if the calls continued like this, I wouldn't be able to use my phone properly, so reluctantly, I decided to answer. Hello, this is Mark. Finally, how long were you going to keep me waiting? The workplace is in chaos. Get here immediately. It was Evan, of course. Without waiting for my response, he started babbling about the situation. According to him, when he arrived at work this morning, there were no employees present. When no one showed up at the start of the workday, he began calling each employee only to find out that everyone had resigned. Shocked, he visited the CEO's office but found only a pale-faced Mr. Carson with his secretary nowhere to be found. After you left yesterday, all the employees came to submit their resignations. They all said they would leave in a month and use their remaining vacation days during that month. I thought it was a joke and ignored it, but no one showed up today. I only fired you, Mark. Why did the other employees resign too? Evan was at a loss, and Mr. Carson had no answers either. Gradually, Evan's face turned red with panic. This means there's no one to do the handover. The company is in serious trouble. I told them the same thing, but they insisted it was according to the rules, and no one would come back. Do they really have that many vacation days left? And taking a month's worth of vacation is incredibly unprofessional. His rant continued, and then he started berating me over the phone. You mentioned taking your vacation days yesterday, right? This company's employees have no sense. Taking vacation days when you're fired, and for a whole month no less. This is fraud. There's nothing unusual about it, I said, completely exasperated. In this company, employees earn 20 days of paid leave each year. Additionally, for this particular year, they can carry over unused days to the next year. Thus, employees could accumulate up to 40 days of paid leave if they choose to. Ever since you came, you've been denying our vacation requests for various reasons, so everyone carried over their unused vacation days. This is just karma for what you've done to us. No way. His weak voice was clear even over the phone. But then he snapped back to reality and raised his voice again. All right, I'll give up on the other employees, but you must convince Emily, who worked with you, to stay. What? Why just her? She knows all the ins and outs of your complicated work. After firing you, I planned to have her take over your tasks, but now she's left too. My plan is ruined. That's unfortunate, I replied, suppressing the urge to laugh. Actually, after leaving the company yesterday, I met up with Emily. I submitted my resignation to Mr. Carson as well, she said, smiling brightly as she followed me out. Are you sure about this? I asked. Absolutely. A company that makes such poor decisions isn't worth staying at. When I told him I was resigning, he mocked me, saying they wouldn't miss one or two employees like me. She started laughing heartily. Mr. Carson and Evan are going to be in for a shock tomorrow. It's not just one or two employees, the entire staff is quitting. Yes, this mass resignation was our plan all along. Everyone had been fed up with Evan's antics and Mr. Carson's failure to stop him. We had been planning to leave the company, and the incident with Evan hijacking my presentation at the exhibition was the final straw. After that, Emily and I joined our other resigned colleagues and celebrated with some delicious drinks. As I recalled the events of yesterday, I heard Evan's weak voice on the phone. If it comes to this, even you will do. Come to the office immediately. The phones have been ringing nonstop with inquiries, and we can't keep up. I was fired by you, Evan. I can't come to your company, I replied, clearly refusing and ending the call. As I hung up, I could still hear his pleading voice, but I had no more ties to that company. Evan continued to call me intermittently, however. I never answered, and the calls gradually decreased, eventually stopping completely after a week. He must have been too busy dealing with the company to keep calling me. I enjoyed my newfound peaceful life for a while. Later, I heard that the company went through a tough time. Even when they received inquiries, only Evan and Mr. Carson were there to handle them, which led to many misunderstandings. Eventually, a defect was found in the fax machine presented at the exhibition, and the company received numerous complaints. Without me, the one who had developed it, Evan was at a loss. He couldn't answer questions about repair schedules or future prospects, angering the clients. Meanwhile, I continued to walk my usual commute route. As I passed my former company, Evan spotted me and rushed over, sweating profusely. You're finally here. I knew you would come, Mark. Now fix that fax machine. The clients are furious. Half crying, he clung to me, but I shook off his hand nonchalantly. You must be mistaken. I was fired from Carson Manufacturing. Then why are you here? He asked, bewildered. I'm on my way to my new company. From now on, I'll be working at Davis Engineering, my new startup. Evan was stunned, his eyes wide, and he turned pale, collapsing to the ground. He tried to say something, But I ignored him and headed to my new office across from Carson Manufacturing. I had always wanted to have my own company, a place where I could freely create machines, a dream come true. With like-minded colleagues, I wanted to create products that could compete globally. As I shared my vision, my coworkers supported my plan. What started as a dream became more serious as Evan worsened the work environment. We gradually prepared for the startup, and I had intended to stay at Carson Manufacturing until the launch of Fabs out of loyalty. But the betrayal at the exhibition by Evan and Mr. Carson sealed my decision to leave. In my new office, I looked out the shiny windows. Inside, the data Evan presented at the exhibition included bugs from before the revisions. I had the correct data and fixed parts ready for the real presentation. If he had apologized, I might have given him the revised data, but that's impossible now. I turned to see Emily standing there with a cup of coffee. Behind me, my former colleagues were smiling warmly. Everyone who had submitted their resignations had joined my new company. I looked around at the familiar faces, all reliable friends. Let's work together and give it our all. I look forward to working with you, I said. Encouraged by my words, my colleagues responded with bright, beaming smiles. After that, we worked together to develop the improved version of Fabs. We addressed the previous issues and launched the final product online. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and upon seeing this, Avon reportedly collapsed to the floor in despair, saying, "This is the end for our company." Just as he predicted, the old company stopped receiving new orders. Everyone preferred the improved version from my new company. Nobody wanted to buy the problematic old product. Evan only received repair requests, but he couldn't handle them and was soon swamped with refund demands. Shortly after, the company went bankrupt. The elite newcomer, Mr. Carson's son, had long since fled and was working in an unrelated field. Meanwhile, Mr. Carson and Evan ended up with massive debts and eventually filed for bankruptcy. After that, they tried to find new jobs, but Evan, having never worked properly, was not hired anywhere for long. The other day, Emily confided in me with a serious expression. "Actually, I saw a soup kitchen in a park in the neighboring city for people in need. Among them, I think I saw someone who looked a lot like Mr. Carson and Evan. If it really was them, their fate is tragic, but it's certain that they are reaping the consequences of their actions." Since then, my company has been steadily growing. We've been continuously improving, incorporating customer feedback to make the machine more versatile with interchangeable attachments. I intend to keep cherishing the feelings of my employees and our gratitude towards our customers. And my relationship with Emily has also blossomed. "I'll always stay by your side. I want to watch the company grow alongside you," she said. It's been a year since she confessed her feelings, and we started dating. Next month, we're getting married. I want to continue building a vibrant workplace with Emily, who understands me better than anyone else. Hand in hand with her, I step into a new future. With all my might, I will continue working tirelessly today and every day.